Greetings, everyone, and this is your weekly dose of Normaline goodness as we all welcome our new segment, which I call Fiction Worm Reviews. Yay! Palakpak. In this segment, we'll be reviewing stories that I've read before and the lessons that we can get from it. Yan. Amazing! The first story that we'll be reviewing today is walang iba kundi ang ating first Let's Read, which is Alamat ng Dama de Noche. Ooh. If you haven't read or heard of the story of Alamat ng Dama de Noche, I have a Let's Read on that in my channel. Just click on this link here, or is it here? Anywhere here, it'll appear. And listen to me read Alamat ng Dama de Noche in Tagalog. Alright, without further ado, let's get into the reviewing. Dama de Noche is a Philippine Kwentong Bayan, which means that it is a story which we pass from mouth to mouth. It's an oral tradition. According to my trusty friend Miriam, oral tradition are the stories belief that a group of people share by telling stories and talking to each other. For example, oldies like me tell this story to younger children. And then those younger children will then retain those story in their memories, and then that's the story that can be passed on to generation. That's oral tradition. Now you know. Since it's oral tradition, we really don't know where this story came from. Well, it came from the Philippines, but specifically the author is not applicable. We don't know who the author of this story is, and we also have a bunch of versions of this story. I actually found two more versions of this story. One I like more than what I read, and the other one is a lot worse than what I read. Well, it was okay. It was okay, I guess. Yeah, it was okay. Do I like it? Meh? I guess. Well, it's a typical Kwentong Bayan. And the current me right now just say that I don't like this story. Yeah, it's good because it's telling us the story of how people lived back then. But currently, and there's also one thing that I dislike about this story, and that is Tato Makisig. Yep, I like this story as a kid. I think I've seen this story before. Was it Once Upon a Time, or Mahiwagang Baul, or Kwento ni Lola Basyang? As a fiction worm, even before, I love these stories, the legends, the meets legends around Philippines. So it's one of my favorite stories, Alamat ng Dama de Noche. But as I reread it now, as a oldie like me, yeah, I have some problems about it. Alright, so summary. So the story goes on like this. We have one datu, which we call Makisig, and he wants to find a wife. And then he found Dama, our girl. They fell in love and they got married, but then years went on. Dama didn't have any children. Makisig had a problem with Dama not having a child, so he went on and ignored Dama, and then Dama went all heartbroken, and then eventually she got sick and she died. Then it was Dato Makisig's turn to be heartbroken because his wife died, and then he found a plant grew from where Dama was buried, and then that became Dama de Noche. Ganun. So the question is, what can we get from this story? Like all Kwentong Bayan, this story's job is to tell the story of how people lived back then. The setting of the story was pre-Spanish era, so you can see from the story that there is this kingdom led by Datu Makisig, and then she had a wife. He had a wife, and then when they had a problem with having a child, Datu Makisig eventually got all ignored to our girl Dama. So I think this is because Datu Makisig is the Datu. He has to find an heir to lead their community after he is gone. So when Dama didn't have a child or any children at all, I think that kind of burned out the fire that he has for our girl Dama. And so for our girl Dama, by the way, she has a role upon marrying the Datu of their community. She received this role of bearing an heir. Aside from being the perfect wife for the Datu, when they had a problem in getting a child, she tried her best in other things because they didn't have a child. So she did her best in other aspects of being a wife. She did better. She waited for her husband before she ate, before she slept. And that led to her being sick and dying in the end. Okay, but if you think about it, was it anyone's fault that they didn't have a child? That Datu Makisig? Well, personally, I think Datu Makisig was a jerk for leaving Dama behind. But let's skip that. Let's ignore that thing for now, and let's just think of, was it anyone's fault? I mean, they're just doing their job. Datu Makisig was just doing his job as a Datu, the local chieftain of their barangay. Dama was just trying her best in doing her job as the wife of the Datu. But was it anyone's fault at all? Nope. I think nope, right? Nope. Aside from Makisig being a jerk, I think no one was at fault at this story. But because they have their own roles to do in their own society, since both of them failed to achieve this role, the relationship that they have eventually broke down, and then which led to the ending of the story. Yep, I think that's how it went. Aside from its purpose to remind people of how we lived back then, it also makes us more thankful of what we have now. I mean, for me, while I was reading this story, I felt sorry for Dama, and then I felt angry at Datu Makisig because Datu Makisig's action was just full-blown jerk. And what Dama did was just so pitiful, I guess. If we put that story here, but that doesn't work that way. And so this made me think of how thankful I am that we are living in an era where we're free to choose what we are. We're free to choose what we do, and we're free to choose to be who we are. And so that is the end of our fiction worm reviews. If you like this video, press the like button down below, and if you want more contents like this, press subscribe and also the notification bell beside it to get more updated for videos like this. Always remember that you are unique just like everyone else. Okay, so that's it. And salamat kaadyo sa inyong pagtanaw sa akong channel ug magkita-kita niya ta sa sunod semana.